Is the 1st of the 10th, 2025. The time is 8 minutes past 10. That means, as always, there are very many F1 centric thread at which we need to pull. We're going to have to talk some Maximilian Verstappen stuff because there's a lot of chat about the sim. There's footage being released of a very dangerous moment at the Nordschleife when we go into the Singapore Grand Prix, where his near as makes no difference. The favourite to drop it on pole and win a race, 25 points. Is the championship back on? So too we'll talk about Kimi Antonelli. Toto, the boy who cried wolf, has come out and given his unwavering support now to Kimi Antonelli, saying that that dude will be in the car next year. We'll talk about it and what Toto, the boy who cried wolf, is doing that's duplicitous at best. So too we'll talk about Scuderia Ferrari and all of the chaos. Rumour and speculation is that potentially as Charles Leclerc goes out the door, that they will beckon in the prodigal son, the one that is Carlos Sainz Jr. What are we doing here? Absolute nonsense. Go on then, in the first instance, let me show you this, because a lot of people are talking about Max Verstappen and his overall journey, that the genesis story of Verstappen, foursome so soon to be five-time champion, is only just starting now. You understand that we have this conversation under the aegis of sim racing. For the longest time, people said, well, sim racing doesn't bear any relation to the real thing, that it doesn't test the internal gyroscope, nor you feel, you don't get the compression. But now all of a sudden, with the genesis of AI, it's 2025 and people are now saying that the sim has never ever been closer nor more useful as far as extrapolating the skills requisite to win races, proper ones, on the track. You've heard Max Verstappen say a gazillion times that what he wants to do is bring a top tier sim racer into racing real life and help them win, because he sees no difference, that sim racing per Max Verstappen and racing in the real world are as near as makes no difference, mirror images of each other. Now Misha steps in, and again, Misha is a Nordschleife specialist. You'll see his bloody videos doing god tier levels of views each and every single time on YouTube. He said in the next 10 years it's going to be mandatory to be a sim racer before you're considered a professional driver. Real racing can cost up to €1 million a year, but with the sim it's just electricity and the purchase price of the sim. I concur, sir. I don't know who all these knuckle draggers are as far as Formula One fans that still do one of these, ignoring the upsides and benefits that come with a decent bit of time. 10,000 hours worth in the sim. Surely Maximilian Verstappen is testament to that, a case in point. Let me show you this as well before we get into some Maximilian Verstappen, because the context is this. Toto's been saying all these things about Max Verstappen, how he wants to sign him in 2026. That's not going to happen now. Project Verstappen needs to be postponed as far as Toto's concerned until 2027. We know this. The context is they've always been having these conversations. Toto's told you as much, notwithstanding his very duplicitous nature. Miami Grand Prix race weekend, there was a conversation between Team Verstappen, Raymond Vermeulen, Jos and Max and Mercedes. That was Miami last year. So too there were conversations had over the summer break. Over the summer break this year there were also conversations had. Rest assured, therefore, Toto, where there's a will there is a way, and he will drop kick in the chest a George Russell or an Antonelli if it means that he can get his hands on a full soon to be five-time champ in Max Goat. However, now he's come out and given his unerring support to Kimi Antonelli. What are we doing here? Mr. Chameleon settings as far as Toto, the boy who... What are we doing? Only a couple of races ago, after the Italian Grand Prix, it was like, well, that was very disappointing from Kimi Antonelli. All of a sudden, when up until then erstwhile, it had been, we give him our unwavering support. He's a young gun. You've got to extend him some patience and some grace. Therefore, once Kimi Antonelli gets his feet underneath the Mercedes and F1 table and plays his way into the performance crease, he'll be Ayrton Senna. That was the chat back then from Toto. Now, all of a sudden, it was like, oh, that performance wasn't very good. Kimi Antonelli's going to need to get it together. And then Mr. Chameleon, Toto, the boy who cried wolf, when pressed on this by Sky Sports Italia, had this to say. I will translate, I promise. Roll the clip.
Tutte queste storie attuali che pensiamo da mettere Kimi alla Williams o alla Alpine, completamente nonsense. Zero. Kimi va a essere in la Mercedes il prossimo anno. 100%. Tutte le storie non sono vero.
Infatti lo vedo che sorride.
Diciamo che mi ha anche detto qualcosa.
Stop the right. I cannot trust this chameleon of a team principal. I cannot trust him. Ross Brawn told us not to trust him. And here he is, now all of a sudden giving Kimi Antonelli his unwavering support. Now all of a sudden, because Max is committed in 2026 to Red Bull Racing. Coincidence? I think not. Let's go through it again and I'll translate in real time so you understand. Those non-Italian speakers understand what he's saying.
Cos'altro che è meglio non dire, ecco.
No.
Ora ce lo dite. No, meglio.
Tutte queste storie attuali che pensiamo da mettere Kimi alla Williams o alla Alpine, completamente nonsense.
There you go. He says all these stories about me potentially putting Kimi in an Alpine or at Williams for a year or two are absolutely nonsense. Toto's words, not mine.
Zero. Kimi va a essere in la Mercedes il prossimo anno.
There's zero possibility of that happening, that Kimi will race at Mercedes next year, 100%.
100%. Tutte le storie non sono vero.
All of these stories amount to nothing. Zero possibility of that. Listen, I'd love to believe you, Toto, but do you know what I mean? You change like the weather, sir. You would not be talking this way. These words would not be coming out your mouth if, again, there were even a smidge of a possibility of you signing Max for 2026. I would question, therefore, what's going on. This negotiation process has been overly protracted. You are the manager of both Kimi and George and the team principal. How do you manage for these conflicting demands, sir? Well, George is going to manage for them. He's going to kick you out of his management team. Of course he is. You cannot negotiate with your team principal, who is also your manager. Surely that's the oldest truism in F1 history. This is double dipping, no double jeopardy, conflicting priorities and demands. It's going to be interesting, not necessarily about Kimi Antonelli. He won't have a choice. He'll stay at Mercedes, but King George Russell will have options, and that's why he's dragging his feet now, understanding the true extent, breadth and depth of his negotiating power, as team principals up and down the grid realise that King George is potentially the next one after Maximilian Verstappen. Oh, and by the way, we're talking about Maximilian Verstappen. Something has happened. I've got to show you this, because hitherto, season to date, Max Verstappen naysayers have been frolicking. Yeah, he hasn't won races. He's a fast car merchant. You will recall, for the avoidance of doubt, this is what they said, and I've heard these a gazillion times, and sometimes you've got to address them, particularly after the fact. They said that Max can only win in a new rocket ship. Well, how about now? Max can only win with one team, when he's gone and win the Nordschleife, right, in a 296 Ferrari GT3 NLS Round 9. Max can only win because the car is built around him. Well, how about now with the Nordschleife, yeah? Max can only win when he has the fastest car. Max can only win when he starts from pole. Well, at the Nordschleife, he weren't starting from pole. What are you talking about? He hasn't had the fastest car for as near as makes no difference 18 months. So the Max Verstappen naysayers, lest they wish to be declared F1 abbots of unreason, need to stop doing one of these, right? Stop disbelieving the evidence of their own eyes and ears, and embrace the light of truth and objectivity, surely. And then there is a piece of footage that's chaos, chat. You guys would have seen by now all of the madness that's been going on at the Nordschleife. Nordschleife is one of the most challenging aspects, circumstance, as far as a racing track in all of the world. A gazillion turns, 15 miles long or whatever. It is techie than techie things. You will have seen video a couple of weeks before Max decided he was going to go and break all the records around there in a 296 GT3, get his license in a bloody Cayman, no less. A few weeks earlier, you'd seen a massive crash. Now, these are just muggles. Do you know what I mean? You or me trying to attack a Nordschleife. Again, the greatest challenge to any driver, F1 or otherwise. There was a humongous accident, and then you see this footage from Max Verstappen when he was doing his NLS event GT3 race. Roll the clip. Listen to me. This chap does not care. Zero budges given. He's built different. Yeah, you'll see Lando Norris do this. But I mean, when Lando did it the other day at the Italian Grand Prix, it was self-induced though. When Maximilian Verstappen does it, it's because he's accounting for the muggles around him. These are apples and oranges as far as examples. And the key question is this going forward into the Singapore Grand Prix race weekend. Can Max Verstappen leverage his not insubstantial talents to be the difference yet and still? Red Bull, they've upgraded the car. Floor fairings tick. Floor upgrade tick. Brand new wing beams. They've got all the sexy aero on there. Courtesy by Pierre Vacher, who's finally pulled his finger out. Do you know what I mean? Hitherto, it's been underperformance, nothing but underperformance. They failed to do like Adrian Newey would and take a step back and see the F1 wood for the F1 trees and troubleshoot for a very mercurial RB21 as far as its snap oversteer, understeer, handling dynamic. Now they've improved. Lauren Mekies has told us, but will it be enough? For those who are invested in a levelling of the competitive landscape, a competitive championship between now and race 24, we are hoping that they've done enough. This is a difference now in extents and not kinds. Does Maximilian Verstappen have the car capable of winning championships, races, and therefore championship? That's the question that we're going to get answered at the Singapore Grand Prix race weekend, because Red Bull have never ever in their lives gone well around here. The track is too contoury and it doesn't blend well. It's not the Red Bull's natural habitat per se, but the trend, some say, is your friend until there's a bend. What are we doing here?